So, welcome to today's webinar. We are hosting Luis Martinez today. He's CEO of Frontline with a very interesting product. Actually, if I was to pick an AI application in the capital project area, it would be a schedule. So, if you worked on the execution side, you know how complicated they can become. So hopefully, Lois is going to bring some new solutions that we all need. Lois, can you please take over and tell us a little bit more about yourself, your company, and your product?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Nermina, and hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining this webinar, and hopefully you will find it interesting. I'll try to keep it short. I'll try to keep it to the point with a lot of examples. And if at any point there are any questions, feel free to interrupt me and just fire them, okay? My name is Luis Martinez. I'm the founder and CEO of Frontline, which is a startup in the planning and scheduling space for complex projects in infrastructure, oil and gas, mining, industrial applications, anything that is large, anything that is complex, that's where we're playing. Before this, I used to work for an oil and gas operator, Shell. You probably have heard of them. I worked for them many years. I was mainly involved in turnarounds and shutdowns and brownfield projects, uh, both from a planning and scheduling role, but also execution. So I got to see both worlds, the planning part and then the reality when you start building and nothing goes as planned and you need to try to understand what's going on and react to it. So, Nermina, give me a green light if we can start.
Yes, please go ahead. Yes,
Sure.
that's quite a better introduction that I was able to do. Thank you for that.
Thanks for the compliment. Okay, Frontline, what do we do? In essence, we've built AI technologies that help anyone who's responsible of managing and creating this large and complex projects. We've built the technology so that you can learn from how you've built in the past automatically in an easy way. So it has to be automated and it has to be reliable. So we learn from the past, and with that learnings, and together with what you need to build or maintain today, generate an optimal plan for it. And when we mean optimal, it could be shortest duration, lowest cost, any combination of those, no? Or even meeting some of the constraints and restrictions that your project may be facing. That definition is open, but the key here is we've developed a technology that enables uh, basically construction companies and operators to do this. Well, sorry. And we are involved in this because I saw this myself when I was working for Shell, and we see it now every single day for the past 4 years. Poor planning is one of the leading causes behind delays in project delivery and cost overruns. I mean, we're building very complex stuff, and the planning in itself is also very complex. And what we've seen is that it's very difficult to learn from past projects. It's very difficult to learn from them, and typically those learnings are not stored and reused. Secondly, it takes weeks to develop a single project schedule because all the software that is used is very manual and you need to input and output all of the information in a manual way. So it literally takes weeks to come up with a plan. And then if you want to make changes, optimize it, try to make improvement, it takes a lot of time. And especially when you're in execution mode, understanding what's going on, analyzing the root cause of delays, et cetera, takes a lot of time. And I want to show you one example of a fairly simple project that we run through our platform to illustrate why project planning is so complex in nature, why it takes so long when you're doing it manually. So this particular project had a little bit over 1,000 different activities. Those activities had to be done by more than 100 different resources, more than 10 working calendars, more than 100 constraints and milestones for this project, both contractual procurement milestones, and all of this together cost or was basically was more than 100,000 parameter combinations. And we're asking a human to bring all of that together and come up with a plan. So that's literally one drop on the ocean among more than 100,000 combinations. No? And the chances that, that plan is the best plan are, are, are very, very few. So
Hmm. Just a
this
question
leads,
here: Is this
yes,
level 4 schedule that
this is
we
a
are
level
using?
4 schedule for fairly simple maintenance activities.
Hmm.
So this what and then I mean this obviously leads to we come up with a plan which is the best possible plan we can think of, but this plan in itself, what we've seen is that it's fairly suboptimal in the sense that using AI we can find much better alternatives, and we've seen that majority of the energy and mining projects are delayed with a significant delay of almost 40% versus the original plan and a significant overcost also. So it's not an ideal situation, right? And why does it take so long? So if we look at the top, uh, typically how it works is, hey, you have this scope, then this planner needs to translate the scope into a list of activities with certain relationships. So this planner needs to design the whole thing, input it into scheduling software, which will then simulate all of the constraints, timelines, etc., come up with a result. Then the planner tries to improve it, re-simulate it again, and you do it a number of iterations throughout typically 1 to 4 months to come up with a detailed schedule. And again, there's hundreds of thousands of possible combinations, so the chances that this schedule is the most optimal one are very low. Whereas with AI, what we're trying to do is reduce this tremendously by using AI technology that looks at how you've built in the past, looks at the scope, with those together, simulates all the different options, and then the planner can check the details, but more importantly, choose between the best options in terms of reducing duration, cost, use of resources, etc., etc.
Hmm. Now you're talking about hundreds of optimal plans. Do you generate suggestions in terms of which, taking into account constraints, which of the plans would be
Yes,
preferred?
so this image that you see here at the bottom is one of the outputs that the software gives, where each dot represents an alternative schedule. And here we show them in a project duration versus cost
Hmm.
graph. And then
Hmm.
the different coloring corresponds to the criteria for the optimization. So if you want to in dark blue, for example, you have options that reduce project duration as much as possible, but they are increasing the cost a little bit because they're adding more resources. There's options that are trying to reduce resources or better distribute resources, which are the ones in red. So again, this is giving the flexibility for the project team to decide what's best for them.
Just out of curiosity, when did you start developing this solution?
So we
How long?
started in end of 2021,
Oh, okay.
so
So
not too long
basically
ago. It
2 years.
feels like ages, but not too long ago.
Hmm. Yeah, 2 years. And what's the platform you used? We talked a little bit just before we started this webinar. We used an existing pre-trained model as a basis.
So I'll answer to your question on this slide.
Okay.
So in order to achieve this, we had to break down this goal in three different parts. The first part was understanding the past, how you've built in the past, deriving insights from those past projects. What was the actual productivity versus the plan, grouping similar activities together, etc., etc., to then inform a new schedule for a new project today. The second part was, hey, how can we take that schedule and find different alternatives for that schedule to reduce duration, to reduce cost, better use of resources, etc., etc. And then the third part is once you are in a execution mode and the folks out there are building stuff, there's things are changing a little bit from the plan. You want to quickly understand what's going on and how do you need to react to those changes to ensure that either you mitigate or eliminate any potential delays, or if you're doing very well, how can you capitalize any gains that you have? No? So the first part, to answer to your question, Ermina, basically looks at activity description, so words, and for that we use what is called natural language processing algorithms. We started with general models out there, which we refine to understand the language of construction and to understand the language of planning and scheduling. So we use a couple of general models, OpenAI, Mistral, Anthropic, and we fine-tune those to the language of construction and scheduling. For the second part, which is the optimization and the analysis, everything is developed in-house. These are advanced optimization algorithms, and all of those are developed in-house.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Then lastly, the way to combine all of them is what we call the AI planner, where basically, and I will show you a video, it looks at past projects, it looks at what you want to build and tries to come up with the best possible option for your project using very minimal input. And for that, I have a video. So in this video, I hope everyone can see this. This is the Frontline application. I'm going to ask it to create a schedule for a mine construction. I'm just Googling. I did this today to get some tender documents for some mine construction in India. So this is the document I found. I just download this document and I'm going to put it into Frontline. And then I'm going to ask Frontline to come up with a schedule for this mine. I'm going to give it some prompts. So you can see here, I'm asking Frontline to make a plan to build this gold mine. It should be split in, the schedule should be split in 4 parts: engineering, procurement, construction, and testing or commissioning. How many tasks there should be for each part, how many levels on the schedule, what should be the duration for each of the activities. And then it's going to look at my repository of mining projects. It's going to look at the information on the tender document, and it has created this first pass schedule that you can see on the screen. Now what I'm going to do is I'm having a look at it, and I'm going to say, hey, for this construction activity here, I want to subdivide this task in different scopes. I want to subdivide it in civil scope, mechanical scope, electrical, and then instrumentation and control. I want the AI to implement these activities into the schedule. So I'll just generate the subtasks, and as you can see, it will take a little bit. And once it loads, it will generate those tasks that are under this larger construction activity. So you can see these tasks here are generated. So this can quickly help to develop a schedule based on natural language, based on the requirements documentation, etc., and with very basic input from the planner. The schedule will be developed based on also on how you've built in the past, so it will take productivity insights from past projects. Obviously, as a user, you can also influence that and make a decision on which parameters to use, etc., etc. I want to stop here if there are any questions.
Yeah. So you pre-trained your model to be specific for the industry areas, infrastructure, mining. oil and gas, right? And that's where
So
you are. Mhm.
the way that it works is we've created the technology that
Mhm.
is agnostic to industry type of project. Okay, what we did is develop the technology that understands the language of construction and planning and scheduling. The
Okay.
way it works is, let's say you are a new user of our platform, you will upload a repository of past projects, and
Okay. Your
our
own
our
repository of past projects.
yes, your company's repository of past projects, and then the model
Hmm.
will look
Yeah.
at those and extract the insights from those. Okay, we do not mix between companies because what we see, first of all, for data protection reasons, but also we saw that the results are very different and make no sense. So it's the we only use the data that you input.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you upload 10 projects, we'll use those 10 projects. If you upload two projects, we will only use two projects. And that's very important because maybe you've done, I don't know, 10 highways and you upload those 10 projects and now you're building a new highway, but this highway is being built on in honor of you, Nermina. In Canada, during winter time, there's a lot of snow. Uh, there's very bad weather, so probably the construction windows are much smaller. Probably the productivity is very little in those months. So maybe having information on building highways in Texas is not going to be representative. So you can just disregard those projects and only compare your new project against projects that you believe are very similar.
Okay. So you create the list of activities. You create durations. Um, start date. I guess you can configure that.
Yes, yes. I
You
mean,
input
here,
start date and
here,
then okay.
I
So.
prepared this for the session today. I prepared it like 1 hour ago.
Mhm.
But here on the prompt, you can be as detailed as you want. But also remember, you can upload different files. So you can, if let's say the tender documentation doesn't have the information, uh, you can also upload like a Word file where you're saying, hey, I want my project to start on this date. And this should be the naming convention for activities. This should be the coding convention for activity IDs, etc.
Okay, very good. Very interesting. Um, yeah, please continue.
Sure. So now I wanted to share some case studies because all of this is very cool, etc. But it has to bring some value to the user. So the first case study I wanted to share is with a petrochemical operator who were going to be they were going to do a large turnaround or a large shutdown where they're doing a lot of maintenance activities, so fairly complex scope. Um, so we engaged with them a couple of months before the event, and basically the first thing we did was, hey, give us your past turnaround schedules in Oracle P6, in Project, in Excel, whatever. Just input that into the platform, give us the scope for this turnaround. And with that information, we could generate a first pass schedule for the turnaround in just 2 weeks. And this would have taken them 2.5 months to 3 months only to generate a schedule because this scheduling tools are so manual that you need to input every single piece of information. So we were saving more than 2 months of planning work for two planners just by being able to do this. And then afterwards, the second part was, oh, hey, now all of the scope is on the schedule. We know what we're going to build. Can we find better alternatives to do it? How can what can we do to reduce the duration, the cost, and the use of resources? And for that, we use the Frontline optimizer, and that saved 1.5 days on the original schedule. So from 37 days, it went to 35.5. Um, and we reduce execution costs from the resourcing plans they had by 11%, simply by finding a better alternative to the scheduling of work and resources. And then lastly, during the turnaround itself, well, they could immediately, every day they were doing the progress updates. They can upload them into the platform, see what has changed, and try to mitigate any impact from delays by being flexible and being proactive.
Mhm. So I have two questions here. During the build-up of a schedule, one of the big issues is the team buy-in. In other words, how do you manage the interaction between your platform and the team inputs, because they have to accept the schedule or buy-in into a proposed
Yes,
schedule?
indeed. So first of all, we work hand in hand with the team, with the planning team. So there's a very iterative process where we take their inputs and we just generate an output based on those inputs, and it's just a matter of iterating on that until they think that it's a good enough first pass schedule.
Okay. Um, so and then second one, the updates to a schedule. That's really, I find it more difficult than actually building up the schedule because it takes time. People are busy with the execution part. Nobody likes updating schedule, yet everybody wants to have updated schedule. Is there anything on that side that you are bringing as an innovation or?
No, that's hard and will remain hard. Okay.
Mhm.
I used to do this in my past life at Shell. I used to walk around my area and see what was the progress of work. Um, it's hard to that's a different problem. It's a people and a process problem that
Okay.
it's difficult to solve with technology. There are some solutions out there completely unrelated to us that are using like I don't know cameras or drones to try to see what's the physical progress. That's great for projects where there's a lot of new stuff being built. That is very volumetric, if I may say. But
Hmm.
for other projects like oil and gas projects, when you have like a radiographic inspection, there is nothing that you cannot, it's not something that you can visually see. You just need the inspection team to confirm that they've done the inspection and that is sufficient, right? So
Yeah.
unfortunately, there is no way around that.
Not today. Okay. So that's next challenge then. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, and another example of a different type of project and different type of problem here. This is an infrastructure project in the U.S. Massive working area, more than 30 miles. Um, there was a lot of excavation work, and basically the amount of work was way above the capacity of the resource that they have engaged. And because the schedule had delayed a little bit some predecessor activities, it was getting to a point where they were seeing peaks that they were way beyond the capacity of the subcontractor. But also at the same time, if they were seeing that this was going to delay the project in 9 months, and they were going to face some penalties, right? So this is a classic example of how of using this in Frontline. Hey, we took that schedule based on the productivity that they were seeing, based on the work to be done, based on the potential changes that could be implemented into the schedule. We simulated this better alternative. And basically, you can see here on the left, this was the resource distribution for the excavation resource. And we basically said, hey, find me options that are capped at a certain value. We found this best option that was instead of delaying the project by 9 months, it was delaying it only by 2.5 months. This helped them save almost $1 million, and it took less than 3 minutes to set up.
Mhm. So another question: the critical path. In traditional way, you get the P6 would spit out the critical path, and very often you cannot actually recognize that critical path. Um, your intuition tells you that some other things are more important than what is in that particular version of critical path. So I always struggle reconciling what I get out of a schedule as critical path versus what the reality is. Did you spend any time on that analysis? How do you analyze
Well,
that?
what we do is when a client uploads a schedule to the platform, we will look at that schedule in itself, how it has been developed and defined, and what constraints does it have. And if we see strange things like what you mentioned, no, that the critical path is caused by some artificial rigidities that are introduced on the schedule, we will flag them, saying, hey, like you have this activity that has a milestone, it has a constraint, and because of the definition of the constraint, it's preventing the schedule from having any flexibility. We can do that, no? But at the end of the day, we also need to respect the work of the planning team and the project team and what they define on the schedule. We need to respect that now. So if they have some activities that you believe are not on the critical path because of your gut feel, it's very hard for technology to pick that up.
Yeah. Okay. So that's another thing to look for the improvements as the AI becomes more.
But one thing that, for example, we had this example just last week. One of our clients was looking at one of their projects, and they wanted to look at how they had been doing, and then try to make some foresight analysis based on that performance. So they were looking at the critical path that they were seeing today. And they were saying, hey, we want to analyze these activities and see how we did similar activities like this in the past. And then we said, no, let us look at everything. And what we saw is that, for example, they were taking up to four times more for contract negotiations and contract discussions for procurement than what was originally planned. So on average, it was taking them 4 times longer. And there was a lot of contractual work required in the remaining work, which was currently not on the critical path because the duration they had considered was 4 times less. But once we applied that, let's say, real duration, real productivity, those activities were becoming critical paths. So we were able to tell them, hey, unless you try to reduce the duration of these activities, this work, which is not critical now and you do not perceive it as critical, is going to become critical.
Right. So I would imagine that analyze module within your package or platform is taking care of these aspects of the scheduling.
Yes, that one together with what we call the trend there, which is looking, it's not only looking at past projects, but let's say you have a project which is 50%, it will also look at how you've built the 50% that you've done and use that to inform the remaining 50%.
And how do you deal with additional activities as the project progresses? Very often there are additional scopes and or rework, or bottom line there are additional activities. How do you deal with that? Is that
I
how is
mean,
that created on the platform?
so typically that's populated on the scheduling software that the client is using. Unfortunately for us, most clients need to use a certain software and we adapt to it. So if there are new activities, those are added into the schedule and then they upload the progress update with these new activities and we will take them into consideration.
Okay, so you're basically working back and forth between P6, let's say P6,
Yes.
and and your software. Okay. Okay, please go ahead. Yep.
Yes. So here I'm summing up. We've seen that it has very tangible benefits for both the project side, but also the planning team side. For projects, we see an average of 1 to at least 4% overall project duration, especially the execution part, and then up to 12% reduction in resource usage and execution costs, depending on the type of project. But we've seen up to 12% reduction in those costs. And in terms of the planning team, it really saves a lot of time of planners. That they do not
Yeah.
have to do a lot of manual, very low value add work, which is just inputting activities in P6 and editing those activities and adding the logical relationships. All of that is automated.
Yeah. Perfect. That's, yeah,
And,
upfront.
and in terms of where we are, we're a Singapore headquartered company, but we have offices also in Europe. And fortunately for us, we work all over the world. We work in oil and gas, petrochemical, and large infrastructure projects. And we want to also work in the mining industry. We've seen almost any kind of project from highways, data centers, power plants, all the way to refineries, etc.
Excellent. I- did you spend any time, just curiosity, did you spend any time looking at certain industries and analyzing areas that are most prone to delays, schedule delays?
At the beginning, we tried to do that and we got very weird results. And the reason for that is that the way each company builds up their schedules is very different. So that's why we very early in our journey we made the decision that uh, you only compare yourself against your own data.
Right. Yeah,
And,
that's
and
great.
even within a company, I mean, we're working with companies that are doing projects in Europe, US, South America, Australia. The productivities, the values, the data points are very different.
Right. That's, yeah, yeah, quite aware of that. Um, so I gathered that if somebody is to use your platform, I'm going to call it platform, do you need to get involved? It looks like you're part of the implementation team, or these companies, as they become familiar with your software, can just go ahead and do their own work without your involvement. Is that the model?
Yes, so at the beginning we are very involved. We will do the training, we will do the implementation, we will work with you for the first few projects so that you get accustomed to the new way of working because it's fairly new in terms of planning and scheduling. But after that, it's our users are using the software independently.
Okay, so on the other question is, you are constantly basically transferring schedule between, I'm going to say P6 again, and your platform. So is that a true statement, or can the user use your platform instead of P6 and work directly in your platform?
They could potentially use our platform, but I'm very honest, none of our customers uses only our platform. And the
Okay.
reason being is that either client, public body, or their own standards require them to use either P6 or Microsoft Project or other scheduling software solutions.
Oh, okay. That's fair. So, what would you? I can say from my perspective, basically setting up the schedule at the onset of the project is definitely huge advantage. And the analyze section, or optimize and analyze. Optimize would be okay. Yeah, again, probably at the beginning, and then somewhere throughout the project on regular basis. But how often do we see analyze module being used? To me, that's probably the one that might have the most, or can be the most beneficial.
Okay, but that will depend, no, in terms of like overall benefit to the project, we would say that the one that drives the most value is the optimization module
Mm-hmm.
because let's say you're tendering for a job or you're going to do a job and you're coming up with that detailed schedule. It allows you to evaluate all the possible options, no? And all the possible what if scenarios, all the possible hypotheses, and come up with the schedule, no? And the number, cost, and duration that you're comfortable with. So there we can see a lot of we can see significant cost savings, like reducing resources and cost by 11%. That goes straight to the project, right? Um,
Right.
the trender, which helps with the AI planning of the schedule, will save a lot of time for your planners, but it's true that you need to pay them anyway. So it's not saving money per se, but it's enabling your planners to focus on stuff that is actually value add and not just being some, like I always say, like P6 monkeys where they just put in information into P6 and download the information. And then the analyzer is a great tool for decision making during execution when you need decisions to be made in a very quick time frame, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
helps a lot in terms of what's going on, what's the difference from last month or from last week, what's going what's not going as planned, what's delayed, what's going to be the impact, and what can we do with those questions you can answer very quickly with Analyzer. Um, so it helps and drives a lot of value in the decision making process, but that's more qualitative rather than quantitative.
Mm-hmm. And is it all done through prompting function?
No, it depends on the module. So the AI planner is done by prompting. The optimizer, same thing, but then for example the analyzer, there you really want to drill down into what's actually going on, what's delayed, what's the cause of the delay. So it it has a lot of user interaction.
Okay. So, in which direction are you going to be going now? Are you going to be adding new features, new modules?
So for us, the clear direction is the AI planning. Now we want to make it as autonomous as possible. So our idea is that our software becomes this sort of extra employee that planning teams have, and they can give tasks to this employee, and it will go and do them. That's the idea. We still, or the software will always need a competent planner and a competent project manager to be evaluating what's the input, but more importantly, what's the output, right? Um, but the in between is where we see that a lot of value can be added and automated.
Okay, yeah. How are you keeping up with AI development?
Well, we see that
It's a tongue-in-cheek question.
there's a lot of hype going on now. We've been around. We've been doing this since 2021. We've seen a couple of hype cycles uh, coming up and then fading away. So now it's the ChatGPT hype type thing, but I will see maybe in 6 months or something else. So
Yeah, it's a grok. Since yesterday, I think it's grok.
yeah, yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
to be honest, I don't follow it because I mean we just focus on our customers and whether it's adding value to them, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, that was a little bit, as I said, tongue-in-cheek question. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. This was very insightful. I don't have any more questions, not for now, I should say. So if there are other questions, please put them in a chat box.
Let me go to the.
Otherwise, yeah, I'll just close it for now and pick up a year from now again, or whenever you're ready for the upgrade. Share new stuff that you built into your program. We would love to hear that. Okay. So I don't see any questions. In that case,
Yeah, if there are no questions, in that case, I'll say
yeah,
we'll close it here. But if anyone wants to reach out, I mean, you've seen my my email address, my LinkedIn. You can find me there. I'm very active and happy to share more details.
Well, from that map that you shared with us, I see that you are present in Canada or US. I couldn't distinguish really. Ferrovial is definitely here. So
Both Canada and US. We've done projects both in Canada and US.
oh, okay, there you go. Okay, anything else, Lois, before we close down?
Nothing from my side. Thanks for the opportunity. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. As I said, this is my favorite thing to complain about. Thanks a lot, and till soon again.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye for now.